Have you ever failed? Of course you have. We've all failed. So this past weekend, I was at a car show that had dirt bike races and quad races. It was arena cross, and I saw, I saw a lot of wrecks, a lot of people crashing. And but what I noticed about these guys and kids, there was a lot of kids there, was that they would fall. Some of them got pretty banged up, but they would get back on that bike or get back on that quad and continue on that race. They wouldn't quit. And I said, man, I need to talk about that. And but really what stuck to me, what really stuck with me was these little kids. I mean, little kids on these little 50cc dirt bikes and quads. And I saw this one kid. He wrecked, and I think the bike actually landed on him. And he pulled the bike off, and you could tell like he wanted to quit, like he wanted to be done. And the dad was out there talking to him, and I thought, oh, here we go. They're gonna be like, oh, it's okay. You can be done. And then this mother jumped over the railing, which was insane. So she was in the audience, and this woman jumped over the railing, which was probably, I don't know, probably a 7 or 8 foot drop. Like she jumped over the railing to get on there, and I thought, oh shit, mom's coming down. And I thought they were going to pull the kid off there, but no, what they did was they encouraged him to get back on that bike and continue about his race. Even though technically his race was over because, there was going to be no first place for this kid. There was going to be no second place for this kid. He was going to be dead last no matter what. They still encouraged him to get back on that bike. And, I really like seeing that because you see too many kids nowadays just quitting. The moment it gets hard, they quit. Or even adults, the moment something gets hard, they're done. They automatically quit. They don't want to push forward. They don't want to dust themselves off and move forward. They just give up. And so that really stuck with me, and I love seeing that. I love seeing stories like that. I love seeing the underdog, you know, just because I know what it takes to be the underdog and what it takes to come out on top. So I wanted to come on here and talk about failing and why it's important. You know, we're gonna fail all the time. You're gonna have mishaps. You're gonna have setbacks, and failure is going to be a part of it. But it's how you process that failure what really will define you as a person. Do you give up, or do you push forward? Do you get back on that bike and keep going? What do you do? How bad is it? How bad do you want that thing? If you look at the progress you've made and you quit, was all that progress worth it? Worth just quitting? Was it a waste of time? Because if you're going to quit, that's what it is. It's a waste of time. So you have to be okay with failing, and you have to understand that, like, yeah, it's going to suck, but you got to push forward. And I want people to take from this episode today that, like, no matter what, we don't quit. That's something that I have told myself over and over my entire life. And I recently was looking at a picture of my uh, uh, when I was a kid. I was 5 years old and I had a walker, and it just made me think, like, everything that I've had to overcome, like, no matter what, I'm not going to quit, because I remembered back to that picture. That was one of my first struggles in life, and that was one of the first moments where I realized that, like, this is going to be hard. And I'm going to fail all the time, but I'm not going to let it define me as a person. I'm going to get back on that bike and I'm going to keep on going. And that leads me into, I wrote down some notes here, but another way to look at it as when you're working towards something, burn the boats. That is one of my favorite quotes because burn the boats means you have no other option. There is no turning back. You must push forward. You know, um, Kind of like this podcast. I started this podcast. It was something that was brewing in the back of my head, but I felt like I needed something to really fuel me to want to do it. And honestly, what fueled me is whenever I started recording my lifts. I used to record my lifts for powerlifting, just kind of like see my progress. But now I record me working out to try to motivate others. I'm not worried about how much weight I'm lifting anymore. It's a journey for me. And I thought it would be cool to record that journey, but also to share that journey with others. Because I've been doing it for years. A lot of people don't realize that. And, recently, I went through a divorce and people were like, "Oh, you're working on yourself." And I'm sitting there thinking like, I've been working on myself for years. I have been in the gym for over 17 years. I didn't just start doing this. I just now started showing you. So it just kind of made me laugh that, when people say that, because I'm sitting there thinking, like, no, I've been doing this for a long time. I just decided it was time that I start sharing with others, and maybe I could, inspire somebody to want to work on something. So I'm going to record it. And then, you know, I started writing down, I decided I wanted to try to pursue motivational speaking. It's something I have no idea what's going to happen with it or where it's going to go, but I'm going to try. I'm going to see what I can make of it. And it honestly started by me writing. I got my iPad out one night, couldn't sleep, and I just started writing stories. Just stories of things that I've had to overcome, setbacks, surgeries, life experiences. And I just started writing them down. And it got to the point where I'm like, there's so much here. I don't even know what to do with this and then I kind of backpedaled because I'm like, if I'm going to be a motivational speaker, I can't be reading off of an iPad. It's not going to be very motivating. And along the way, while I was doing that, I was like, it'd be cool to do a podcast again and just be me. Like, there might be a little bit of cussing. I might piss somebody off every now and then with something I say, but just be me. Like, this is who I am. This is what it's taken me to get to the point that I am in life. It hasn't always been sunshine and rainbows. And I think that's important for people to realize, you know, um, it's been a struggle. It's been hard. And this is like the perfect platform to come on and just kind of shoot the shit, just talk, share stories, what it's taken me to get through, meet with people and hear their stories of how they've been able to overcome obstacles in life. But I got the idea to do the podcast. I was like, you know what, dude, I'm doing it. Forget it. I don't care what anybody thinks. Shit, I don't care if anybody watches it. Don't watch it. That's fine. I also feel that it's good for me because it helps me become a better public speaker, and I'm more okay with talking to a camera and knowing that there's people behind that camera. People are going to be watching that footage. So I'm like, you know what? No, I'm going to do it. So I took the idea and I ran with it, and here we are. I think this is it should be episode 6 or 7 whenever it releases. I haven't decided. I kind of record them and then I determine which one I want to upload, you know. But I was actually just feeling motivated tonight to do this. I came home from work and I was like, you know what? I'm going to record an episode. So don't be afraid to fail. Understand that failure is part of the process, and honestly, embrace that failure. And when I say embrace that failure, understand that one day you're going to look back on that failure and you're like, I did it. I pushed forward and I overcame that obstacle. And man, it's going to be a beautiful day, man. That's one of the cool things about when we fail and you pick yourself up and you keep going is that down the road when you succeed, you can look back on that failure and say, man, that shit was hard. But you know what? I did that. Like a lot of my gym videos, even like my weight loss journey, I've been recording on and off, not consistently. I'm not gonna lie. I've been using the Lose It app since 2021. So before I started recording this last year, my lowest weight that I'd seen was 160 back in 2021. And this morning actually, I hit my lowest number I've seen. Oh, I don't even know, but it was under 160. And I thought to myself, holy shit, man, you did it. And I can remember, I think 10 or 15 pounds ago, there was a couple people I told them, I'm like, yeah, I'd like to be under 150. They're like, there's no way. You're barely going to be able to get under 160. And man, let me tell you, that fueled me so much. And I'm the type of person, go ahead, talk that shit. Tell me what I can't do. Like, just music to my ears, because all you're doing is fueling me. And that's exactly what I need to hear. And, you know, but, um, but looking at that journey, I've seen the ups and downs. And I've seen where I stopped for a bit. I'm like, I failed. I stopped. And this time is different because I'm going through this and I'm like, man, what if you didn't stop? What if I just keep going? And, I've failed along the way. I've gained weight, lost it again. Um, I've hurt myself a couple times, couple setbacks. It hasn't been easy, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, you might have failed, but just keep going. You know, you keep going, you will see success. You know, I have a goal in mind and I'm going to make that goal no matter what. Like, I'm not quitting, I'm not giving up. And it's been a beautiful journey. So embrace the failure and don't be afraid of it. And use that failure as motivation to continue forward. Like, yeah, I failed, but you know, I'm not going to let this stop me and I'm going to keep going. And even if you have to look at yourself as the underdog, that's something that I've done. Or you got to dig into that bag of things that motivate you. You know, for me, you never know what it is. It's always something different. Sometimes it's YouTube videos. I just listen to motivational videos when I'm getting ready in the morning. The moment I wake up, I'll play one and just listen to it while brushing my teeth, get dressed. And sometimes it'll be me watching an old video, an old lift, maybe something I bombed out on. And or other times, maybe somebody said something to me and that thought just plays in my head and I use it as fuel. I use it as fuel to push forward, to remind myself that I have a goal in front of me and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to reach that goal and no one is going to stop me. And that's what you have to tell yourself, that I will not quit. Today, this is going to be my fuel. My big one, I think one of the big benefits with working out when the rest of the world is sleeping is telling yourself that I'm doing something that nobody else is doing. And honestly, you go to the gym in the middle of the night, there's nobody there, or there's only a few people. But telling yourself that can be very motivating because you're doing something that nobody else is doing. But that's a form of motivation. And like whatever it takes for you to continue forward, use that as a fuel. and it will do great things for you. I promise you. Like I said, I have all kinds of different things that, like, depends on the day. It's just that I will use as fuel. Sometimes I don't need anything. Sometimes I will go to bed with a goal. Tomorrow, I'm going to go do that. And I wake up remembering that goal, and my day is just complete focus of going after that. But you just have to remember sometimes you're not going to be motivated. And if you truly want to succeed, you're going to have to keep pushing forward. It's okay if you fail, but it's how you get back up is what really matters. So you just got to remember that. Go all in. Go all in. Because if you don't go all in, more likely you're going to fail. You have to be completely committed on something. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to have to do to get there. Write it down. Put it on a piece of paper and say, in 6 months, I want this. And this is what I'm going to do to get there. Write it down, develop a plan, and take action. Action's a big one because guess what? A lot of people talk a lot of shit. There's not a lot of action sometimes. You can say all day what you want to do, but are you actually doing it? That's what really matters. I'll go back to, I've said this before with memes. When people post like stuff on Facebook, you can post that shit all day long, but are you taking action? Like, are you really taking action? Like, are you really digging deep and working on whatever it is that meme says? Are you really doing that? Or are you just lying to yourself and putting that on social media and telling yourself, oh, yeah, I'm doing that. But are you really doing it? That's what you have to ask yourself. Because at the end of the day, you're only lying to yourself. Nobody else gives a shit if you reach that goal at the end of the day. People will be there in the end to congratulate you when you reach a goal, but they're not there when you're working on it. When I was going after my last world record, I had my spouse and I had two lifting partners with me almost all times whenever I was in the gym. They were the only ones that truly got to see what it took to reach my goal. And they saw the days where I wanted to just say, fuck this, I'm going home, I quit. I actually have pictures. There's pictures of them taking of me where I'm like flipping off the camera and stuff, and just completely frustrated with myself and like feel like it was a setback, bombing out on weights that I got last week. Just constant frustration and hours upon hours spent in the gym. My Saturday bench sessions were usually 3 hours. They were usually 3 hour sessions, and they were hard. And I give credit to my training partners because they were there throughout the whole thing. They traveled to Vegas with me, and they were there. They traveled to Toledo with me. They watched me qualify in Toledo. They went to Vegas, and they stuck it out with me. But they were the only ones that were there in the time of my struggle. They saw what it took. They watched the bar. I mean, my spotter, he had to catch the bar multiple times when I bombed out. And it was up to a weight where like it was only one guy and it was two women. So we had to develop we had blocks, wooden blocks on both sides that could catch the bar. Because I was getting up into a weight where he wasn't completely confident that he was going to be able to spot it himself. So we had to adapt to figure out how we're going to do this. There's only three of us. And guess what? When we go to Vegas, there's only going to be three of us there. So what are we going to do to make sure that this works out, I stay safe, and that he feels comfortable with lifting off to me? But nobody else was there for those times of struggle. Yeah, there was, we recorded my lifts and, there was pictures, but other than that, they only saw the success in the end. They were only there to congratulate me in the end. So you have to remember, there's not going to be a lot of people around you there to, it's going to be quiet. You're going to be on your own. This is your journey. And you have to remember that. You want this, You're going to have to go for it. And no one's going to do it for you. And no one's going to feel bad for you when you fail or it's not working out for you. You chose this. You got to do it. What are you willing to do for it? That's what you have to ask yourself. And you have to accept that failure is a part of that process. What are you going to do? Are you going to get back up on that bike? Or are you going to lay there and cry? That's what it comes down to. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast. I am sharing these episodes on Spotify and YouTube. And I'm going to look into Apple Podcasts. I'm still looking into that. But, I finish every episode with this: adapt, overcome, and conquer. Till next time, guys, get out there and work.